Good morning, everyone. This is Nicole. They look mighty tasty, don't they? I'm just kidding. These are ticks. Yes, ticks. I know it looks disgusting, but let's move on. So let's go up a little bit. This is from, New York Times, Global Health. For those of us who will be traveling this summer, perhaps those who will be joining us in our travel group that we are organizing right now. By the way, please email me, NicoleAli864 at yahoo.com. That's NicoleAli 864 at yahoo.com. If you put in the subject line Black Travel Group, I will know what that means. I will forward you information about the Black Travel Group. We have until the end of this week, by Saturday, to have anyone who wants to be part of the organizing of the Black Travel Group. I just wanted to give that as an announcement in this video. So moving on to the article, for those of us traveling, please be aware that tick and mosquito infections are spreading rapidly. This comes from the CDC. Although there are some questionable reasons for this, I wanted to just share this bit of information. So it was published yesterday. It says the number of people who get diseases transmitted by mosquito, tick, and flea bites has more than tripled in the U.S. in recent years, federal health officials reported on Tuesday. Since 2004, at least 9 such diseases have been newly discovered or introduced into the U.S. Warmer weather is an important cause of the surge in cases reported to the CDC, according to the lead author of a study in the agency's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. But the author, Dr. Lyle R. Peterson, the agency's director of vector-borne diseases, repeatedly declined to connect the increase to the politically fraught issue of climate change, and the report does not mention either climate change or global warming. Okay, right there, I have an issue with him. He says many other factors are at work, he emphasized, while noting that the numbers on some of these diseases have gone to astronomical levels. So if it's never gone to astronomical levels before, what would be his reasoning for why it's happening now? Other than perhaps global warming having some type of effect. CDC officials call for more support for state and local health departments. Local agencies are our first line of defense, said Dr. Robert Redfield, the CDC's new director. We must enhance our investment in their ability to fight these diseases. Although state and local health departments get brief infusions of cash during scares like the 2016 Zika epidemic, they are chronically underfunded. Whatever happened to Zika anyway? I haven't heard anything about it. I've been trying to find articles and read more about it. It just went away. Ebola just kind of faded away. I wonder maybe if it has something to do with non-white countries being affected by these diseases. I just wonder. You all can let me know in the comment section. They say a recent survey of mosquito control agencies found that 84% needed help with basics like surveillance and pesticide resistance testing, Dr. Peterson said. While the CDC did not suggest that Americans drop plans for playing outdoors or lying in hammocks this summer, Dr. Redfield emphasized that everyone, especially children, needed to protect themselves against tick and mosquito bites. Between 2004 and 2016, about 643,000 cases of 16 insect-borne illnesses were reported to the CDC, 27,000 a year in 2004, rising to 96,000 by 2016. The year 2004 was chosen as a baseline because the agency began requiring more detailed reporting then. So prior to 2004, the detailing was kind of sketchy. They weren't on their job before that. The real case numbers were undoubtedly far larger, Dr. Peterson said. For example, the CDC estimates that 300,000 Americans get Lyme disease each year, but only about 35,000 diagnoses are reported. The study did not delve into reasons for the increase, but Dr. Peterson said it was probably caused by many factors, including two related to weather. Because as we know, ticks thrive in regions previously too cold for them, and hot spells trigger outbreaks in mosquito-borne diseases. Other factors include expanded human travel, suburban reforestation, and a dearth of new vaccines to stop outbreaks. In an interview, Dr. Peterson said he was not under any pressure to say anything or not say anything about climate change, and that he had not been asked to keep mentions out of the study. More jet travel from the tropics means that previously obscure viruses like dengue and Zika are moving long distances rapidly in human blood. And then they say, by contrast, malaria and yellow fever are thought to have reached the Americas on slave ships 3 centuries ago. So, you had the colonizers bringing that over here. When they brought people here who were immune somewhat to malaria. Because if you have sickle cell anemia, you're immune to malaria. So it goes without saying that many people who brought the malaria and yellow fever over here were of the colonizing gene pool. A good example, he said, was chikungunya, which causes joint pain so severe that it is called bending up disease. In late 2013, a Southeast Asian strain arrived on the Dutch Caribbean island of Saint Martin, its first appearance in this hemisphere. Within 1 year, local transmission had occurred everywhere in the Americas except Canada, Chile, Peru, and Bolivia. Tick-borne diseases, the report found, are rising steadily in the Northeast, the upper Midwest, and California. Ticks spread Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, babiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, rabbit fever, Powassan virus, and other ills, some of them only recently discovered. And it's difficult to know which ones you would have until you get diagnosed, because you have the same responses. Your body can only respond a few ways. Dry mouth, nausea, headache, upset stomach, diarrhea, constipation, a high fever, night sweats, cold sweats. Your body can only respond so many different ways. So it's limited on how it responds. But you could have any of these diseases from getting bit by a tick. It says ticks need deer or rodents as their main blood hosts, and those have increased as forests and suburbs have gotten thicker, deer hunting has waned, and rodent predators like foxes have disappeared. A century ago, the Northeast has fewer trees than it now does. Forests made a comeback as farming shifted west and firewood for heating was replaced by coal, oil, and gas. So people aren't really cutting trees down like that. At least in the Northeast, they've shifted to modern forms of heating. The most disease outbreaks related to mosquitoes since 2004 have been in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and American Samoa. But West Nile virus, which arrived in 1999, now appears unpredictably across the country. Dallas, for example, saw a big outbreak in 2012. For most of these diseases, there are no vaccines and no treatment, so the only way to stop outbreaks is through mosquito control, which is expensive and rarely stops outbreaks. Miami, for instance, was the only city in the Western Hemisphere to halt a Zika outbreak with pesticides. The only flea-borne disease in the report is plague, a bacterium responsible for the medieval Black Death. It remains rare but persistent. Between 2 and 17 cases were reported from 2004 to 2016, mostly in the Southwest. The infection can be cured with antibiotics, so they said it's rare but it's persistent, meaning that it will continue to grow. So that's something to look out for as well. Dr. Nicholas Watts, a global health specialist at University College London and co-author of a major 2017 report on climate change and health, said warmer weather is spreading diseases in many wealthy countries, not just the United States. In Britain, he said, tick diseases are expanding as summers lengthen and malaria is becoming more common in the northern reaches of Australia. But Paul Ryder, a medical entomologist at the Pasteur Institute, has argued that some environmentalists exaggerate the disease threats posed by climate change. Then they come here, they say the 2003 to 2014 period fell during what he described as a pause in global warming, although the notion of a long trend having pauses is disputed. Also, disease transmission dynamics are complicated and driven by more than temperature. For example, transmission of West Nile virus requires that certain birds be present too. In the Dust Bowl years of the 1930s, St. Louis encephalitis, a related virus, surged, and it looked like climate issues were involved, Dr. Ryder said. But the surge turned out to depend more on varying hot, cold, and wet, dry spells and the interplay of two different mosquito species. St. Louis encephalitis virtually disappeared, weather notwithstanding. It's a complicated, multidimensional system, he said. So it does involve mosquitoes being able to crossbreed. It involves the weather. It involves people's activity levels during certain times of the year. So there are a lot of issues that are involved with how these diseases manifest themselves and continue to proliferate. A Marm Kilpatrick, a disease ecologist at the University of California, Santa Cruz, said many factors besides hot weather were at work, including a hump-shaped relationship between temperature and transmission potential. Warm weather helps mosquitoes and ticks breed and transmit disease faster, but after a certain point, the hotter and drier it gets, the more quickly the pests die. So disease transmission to humans peaks somewhere between mildly warm and hellishly hot weather. Experts also pointed out that the increase in reports of spreading disease may have resulted partially from more testing. Lyme disease made family doctors begin to suspect tick bites in patients with fevers. Laboratories began looking for different pathogens, especially in patients who did not have Lyme. That led to the discovery of previously unknown diseases. So this was a pretty interesting article. I hope that you have found some good information that you can use just to learn about some of these diseases and to be aware that as you're traveling, just to be careful to protect yourself. I would suggest, looking up natural ways to prevent mosquito bites or protect your skin from mosquito bites. Making sure that you're taking precautions when you're sleeping at night. Like out here, we sleep usually in the summer with the windows open at nighttime. So we do take precautions because we do have mosquitoes from time to time, but it's not that often. It's not as humid out here as it is in the southeast, for instance. And please look at some of the links that are in blue and underlined because they go to other articles and more information that may be pertinent to you in the area that you live in, or the area that you're traveling to perhaps this summer. But I'll leave you with the title. I'm going to go back up to the title. Just showing that these infections are spreading. I don't know really if it has much to do with global warming. I would think that it does based on the statistics and based on a lot of the studies that have been done around the world on this issue, not just here in the U.S. But I just tell you to please be careful, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.